DeWalt FlexVolt worm drive style and the Milwaukee M18 fuel rear handle saws are in the upper tier of what you can get from cordless circular saw performance. Now they've got advanced motors, batteries, and electronics packages that help them deliver that extra performance. It's much higher than you're going to see from standard cordless saws.
Now these are worm drive style or rear handle saws, the kind that you see used all over in California on the West Coast. They've got the diamond knockout instead of the standard arbor. And they're really just great because they provide a lot of torque. And so if you're ripping through multiple sheet goods on the job site, these are the kind of tools you're going to use.
Now before we started testing, we brought in Tom Gage to help us out. He's a professional contractor and also co-founder of Pro Tool Reviews. Tom!
Hey guys!
What's up, man?
How's it going?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
Kenny?
See ya. Yeah, man.
So, what are we doing today?
We're testing these guys. We got the DeWalt FlexVolt worm drive style saw, and we got the Milwaukee M18 fuel rear handle. We want to see which best.
Aren't these some of the best saws on the market right now?
They are.
All right, so I guess we're going to be testing what? Accuracy, movement, ergonomics?
Cutting performance. Got to see which one's the most powerful.
Obviously.
Yep.
Yeah, we want to get started. So I think what we want to do is we want to know how the saws perform, not the blades.
Okay.
So we're going to swap out the standard stock blades that they come with.
Sure.
All right, for 7¼ inch spider framing blades. So both saws will use this.
Okay.
Give us a consistency.
We'll throw both batteries on the charger, make sure they're fully charged, and get right on it. Now the DeWalt DCS577 is a FlexVolt tool, and it runs with a battery that can detect when it's in a 20-volt max tool or a 60-volt max tool and adjust the voltage accordingly. It allows DeWalt to run at a higher voltage for stuff like circular saws, table saws, miter saws, and some of the more power-hungry tools that they've got on that line without completely departing from the 20-volt max compatibility.
So the Milwaukee 2830 rear handle has an upgraded power state brushless motor. Basically allows it to talk to the upgraded batteries that Milwaukee's using with their high output series. It's still an 18-volt tool, and you can use it with regular batteries, but if you pair it with a high output battery, it's going to give you more power.
Now, of course, circular saws make two basic types of cuts, cross cuts and rip cuts. Now, there's variations on those with bevels and miters, but they all start from the same foundation.
First thing we wanted to get set up for our tests. We're trying to mimic real-world conditions, but we're also sensitive to variances in moisture and knots and things that would just make our cutting inconsistent. So to kind of combat that, we went with a combination of layered 3/4 inch OSB and pressure-treated lumber.
For our first test, we wanted to see which saw has better cutting power. So we brought out a couple of sheets of 3/4 inch OSB and clamped them together, and then ran both saws across the short side to see which one we could run harder without bogging it down.
So DeWalt might run on a higher voltage, but Milwaukee makes up the difference because it draws more current to the brushless motor from those high output packs. After using both saws, they're both cutting really well, but I think Milwaukee's got the edge.
I'll agree with Clint that they're really close, but I think it's DeWalt that's got the edge, especially if you're using that 12 amp hour battery. We came to a gentleman's agreement and decided to call it a draw.
Yeah, gentleman's agreement. Yeah, whatever.
Either way, it's clear that both of these saws are in the top tier of power that you can get from a cordless tool right now. With that decided, we moved on to dust and chip removal.
Dust and chip removal is important because you really need to see your cut line in order to make accurate cuts. So we took a straight edge and we made a bunch of lines on a single sheet of OSB, and then we ran both saws to see which one did a better job of keeping the cut line clean.
It seemed to me that both saws left a little bit of debris around the cut line, but I really couldn't tell the difference.
It did reveal why I like blade right designs better. I mean, if you're a right-handed user and you're making the cut, you're getting the sawdust all over the other side instead of blowing it all over you.
A little sawdust really doesn't bother me, but both of these saws have available dust port adapters so you can connect a vacuum, and that completely changes the game. When you connect that with a vac, you're going to collect up to 90% of the dust that's there. So not only is that going to keep your cut line clear, it's going to eliminate a lot of the cleanup at the end of the day.
With as much work as we do in the shop, having a circular saw connected to a vacuum is a huge time saver when we're cleaning up the shop at the end of the day and getting ready to leave. Of course, we were far from finished testing at that point, and accuracy was next on our list.
Now, our accuracy test consists of 3 parts: your sight line to the blade, how accurate those notches are in the shoe, and how well the saw tracks.
The Milwaukee actually had perfect scores in all 3 tests. You had a perfect sight line to the blade so you could see exactly where you were cutting. The notches were perfect and they lined up on 90-degree and 45-degree cuts, and the handle design didn't encourage you to waver left or right during a cut either.
DeWalt also did really well in our accuracy test. Like Milwaukee, it had perfect scores for its notches and its tracking, but I have to admit, its sightline wasn't quite as clear. Milwaukee may have an advantage there, but I wasn't too worried as we headed into the movement part of our testing.
Yeah, there's basically 2 things we check when we talk about a saw's movement. We're checking the guard to make sure it gets out of the way when you're making all sorts of different types of cuts. And the other thing we're doing is checking the friction on the shoe. so that it glides smoothly over the wood while you're cutting through it.
DeWalt's guard action smoothly lifted over almost every single cut we made. 2x cross cuts, 3/4 inch shave cuts, bevels, miters, even compound cuts. There was just one compound cut where the guard hung up a little bit.
And Milwaukee matched DeWalt cut for cut on the guard action. It didn't hang up on any of the different types of cuts we made.
On the other hand, shoe friction is a sticky situation for DeWalt. Now, the original FlexVolt circular saw, its friction was pretty poor. Now, the worm drive style is a little better, but it's still not great.
And Milwaukee doesn't have the same amount of friction on the shoe that DeWalt does. We did test a couple saws that are better, but Milwaukee is close to the top. I mean, it just glides over the wood. You can almost play air hockey with it. With ergonomics coming up next in our testing, I was feeling pretty good about Milwaukee's performance against DeWalt.
It's arguable how much weight comes into play with a circular saw since you're not typically cutting vertically or overhead. Still, you gotta haul that thing around the job site, so the lighter, the better.
You know, neither one of these saws comes in as a lightweight, especially when you compare against sidewinders in the same kind of class. Milwaukee's rear handle is about 10.3 pounds as a bare tool and 13.7 when you add that large HD 12.0 pack.
DeWalt's weight is pretty close to Milwaukee's. It's 10.5 as a bare tool, and it's 13.7 with that 9 amp hour battery. It's gonna be a bit heavier if you wanna switch to the 12 amp hour battery though.
As corded replacements, these tools really aren't way out in left field. We've got a couple corded saws in the shop that might weigh as much as 14.2 pounds. You take the Milwaukee and the DeWalt, they're about a half pound under that.
Looking at the handle ergonomics, these two saws are very similar in their shape and overall rear handle design. Even though they're really, really similar, DeWalt's front handle is more ergonomic and comfortable with its thicker design than Milwaukee's more traditional skinny style. Now when it comes to features, these two saws are very, very similar and check off all the basic boxes. They've both got advanced brushless motors, they've got blade brakes, they've got LED lights and cut line blowers, and they've got rafter hooks.
The only thing really here that is different is Milwaukee includes the vacuum adapter. DeWalt, it's an extra option you have to buy.
True. Now, DeWalt is running on their FlexVolt system. It's a FlexVolt battery, and that's backwards compatible to 20 volt max tools, so you can run it in either one. It's running a 60 volt max in this tool, but the 20 volt max batteries won't run on your FlexVolt tools.
And Milwaukee operates the entire M18 platform off 18 volts. You do have some advantages with the high output batteries, but other than that, it's all the same. MX Fuel, that's a whole different ball of wax with a different set of equipment for bigger tools, but other than that, same battery.
All right, let's talk about price.
So Milwaukee's charging you $269 for the bare tool and $449 for the kit. That's with the HD 12 high output battery and charger.
Now, DeWalt's a little bit less. It's $249 for the bare tool, $399 for the kit, but that kit comes with a 9 amp hour battery, so the watt hours there are a little bit lower, and kind of making up for the price difference a little bit there.
Yeah, in terms of warranty, Milwaukee's got a little bit of an edge. It's got a 5-year warranty on it. If you go to DeWalt, you got a 3-year warranty and a 1-year service agreement.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about the depth of line, both of these brands go really, really deep in their cordless lines, but when we start talking about the advanced tools, it's a little bit different. Like I said, you can't run 20 volt max batteries in a FlexVolt tool, so you need the FlexVolt battery, and that line is quite a bit more limited. Now, Milwaukee, yes, all M18 batteries will run in this, but you get the best performance out of the high output batteries. Now, I'm only going to use a standard M18 battery in this saw in a pinch, so I mean, that's kind of up to you. I think these guys are pretty equal in terms of getting the best performance out of them into their depth of line.
And in terms of value, I mean, they're really, really close. I do think, though, that Milwaukee's got a little bit of an edge here.
Yeah, it was a couple points higher in our algorithm. So DeWalt versus Milwaukee is one of the heavyweight battles in the power tool industry, but after testing both of these saws, I'm not sure that I can say one of them's a loser.
I don't think so. I mean, they even look very, very similar in style and structure, and I mean, that just made sense once we start comparing them, running them up against each other, and they kind of felt similar.
Neither saw was a slouch. I mean, they really, really performed on par with each other.
Yeah, I do wish that DeWalt would go ahead and start throwing that vac adapter in the package with their kit. But on the other hand, that secondary handle, the bigger diameter, was more comfortable to use.
You know, I really love Milwaukee sight lines. When I was cutting that compound miter, you can see exactly where it was tracking.
Yeah, that made a big difference.
Yeah, I like the shoe on the Milwaukee a little bit better. It just was very, very slick, and it would glide over any kind of material you were on.
Yeah, now DeWalt was a little bit less expensive, but Milwaukee does give you the higher capacity battery with it.
But we did keep score.
We did keep score, and after we tallied everything up, Milwaukee was 1 point ahead of DeWalt, but both of these saws scored very, very high. In fact, higher than any other cordless saws that we've tested in the past several years. They're definitely on a different tier than the old saws used to be.
Yeah, so really all that's left is to get your feedback. If you've got some experience or you just have some thoughts about these saws, leave them in the comments below. And also, we want to know what you'd like to see us put against each other in tools head-to-head moving forward. So go ahead and leave that as well. And as always, thanks for watching.
We'll catch you later.
Hey, help us out by subscribing to the channel below and tap that bell to get notified when we post new tool reviews and shootouts. And as always, thanks for watching.